Let's all say amen again. Amen. You know what? I want y'all to excuse me right now. Uh-oh. It's gonna be short. All right. You know, when you come down like that, we really did invitation. That's going to be short, but not that short. First of all, I just want to say it's good for me to be up here standing before you. Glad to see everyone that's out tonight. I know you didn't come back to hear me. You came back to worship God and to provoke everyone, not just me, to love and good works. And so, anyway, it's good to stand before you. I always say that from time to time, we ought to get up here and speak just so that we can appreciate those that do it on a regular basis. No means do I claim to be a preacher. Do I want to be a preacher? I think I do have something to share with you tonight that you already know. And if I ever get up here, anybody that would get up here to preach something that you don't know, then be watchful for that. I want to thank Brother Junior for the opportunity. Brother Junior put my name out there before he asked me if I would do it. And after that move, I'm going to take Junior. I can't refer to him as Junior. He's full pastor elder now. Move right there. It came off the Joe Fletcher playbook. We appreciate the opportunity. We appreciate the love and the fellowship that we have here. In all seriousness, I appreciate Brother Junior on a lot of levels, not just what he does here at this church, but I think when we had a 50th birthday party for him years ago, I said then that he's not my brother when I think about the things that he's done, not just for my sister, but my entire family. He's married to my sister, but he's just a brother. I tell my mom that, all the time she can tell you that he's the best son that she has. Son-in-law, just son. Anyway, we don't want to hold you too long tonight. As I was looking over my notes, I do have a lot of slides in there, and if I went over everything as is, I would break Brother Sadiq's old record. Do that. And I tell you, the gremlins are working overtime tonight. The slides that normally are sent by Brother David, they didn't make it. And I couldn't get the printer in the back to work, and so anyway, there's an open out there, and so anyway, we're going to get through this tonight. Tonight, as you can tell from the scripture that was read, we're going to be talking about pure religion. And when you hear that, that may sound, to me when I hear it, it sounds kind of highbrow, like that's something that's way beyond what most of us could attain. But I'm here to tell you tonight that we are all required to attain and to enact pure religion. As I said, I probably won't stick with the script. I'm going to do the best I can to get us out of here in a timely fashion. But first of all, I'm going to define what religion is just on the face of it. Religion, as defined by the dictionary, is the belief and the worship of a supreme being or a pursuit of an interest, something described to supreme importance. And of course, I agree with that. We worship God. We believe God is a supreme being. And but in our world today, religion has gotten kind of a bad rap. The word, I'm just talking about the word religion, let alone religion itself. We have so many people who are doing so many crazy things in the name of religion out there today, Christians and Muslims, and you just go from there. And so with that, as a backdrop, even we as Christians sometimes back away from the notion of religion, and we shouldn't. Not if it's pure religion, the kind that James talks about here in our text tonight. Well, I want you to know that religion is simply two things. And that's all there is in terms of being a Christian, what we have to do, what our duty is. There's two things. And James sums it up in one sentence there in James, the first chapter in verse 27. He says, to look after the vulnerable, to help out other individuals, and to live a holy life. And so to sum that up, pure religion then is service and holiness.
All right.
And with that definition, I'm looking at some people that are purely religious out there tonight. Now, we all can improve. We all should look to improve always. But don't get the notion of thinking, when you see something like holiness, that doesn't apply to you. That's something way above what we can be.
That's right.
Holiness needs to be set apart, to be dedicated, designated for a particular use for goodness and righteousness. We all should be holy and sanctified.
All right.
Let me talk about what holiness is not now. When I grew up down in East Texas, and we have some people here from East Texas, glad to have them tonight. I know they were expecting a real preacher when they came tonight, but they got what you got. My only saving grace is that they told me they worshiped at Temple City this morning, so who knows what was going on there. Anyway, so I'm glad that they're here today. Now, when I was growing up in East Texas, we had a religious sect that referred to themselves as holiness. And, they did all sorts of things that were unholy in their worship, if you ask me. And I put Romans 10 there because Paul talks about the Jews that says that they had a zeal for God, but not according to knowledge. And when I think about the people that I grew up with that refer to themselves as holiness, now they had a zeal for God. There was a group that were in our neighborhood. They had a little church front, but it was just really a house right in the neighborhood. And man, they would rock and roll all night. And sometimes we would walk by there, and it seemed like that little house would be shaking, with the tambourines and going on. And they wore these long dresses. I mean, you talk about showing knee, they wouldn't even show ankle. And the kids couldn't play sports. I mean, those of you that know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And I'll never forget this one time. We had just gotten out of football practice. We had a mom that used to drop us off at about the neighborhood so we could all walk home. We would pass by that little house. And one night it was a blustery, early November, late October night. And while they were in there doing what they do, the doors blew open from the wind. And right when I was passing by, and I looked through there, and I saw the leader of this group, who had, 3rd-degree burns from the top of his head all the way down to his body, to his feet. And someone, my relatives know who I'm talking about. And he had these red eyes, and he was standing there, and he was married to a sister that had been a member of the Church of Christ. And she was passed out on the floor, and he had his hand on somebody else's hand, and when the doors blew open, he's looking right at me. And I was so mesmerized, I couldn't move. I just stood there and looked at him until they came and got me and ushered me out of the way. Some of my friends did. But all I'm trying to say is that's not holiness. They call themselves holiness, but that's not holiness.
All right.
Also, I don't want you to confuse holiness with holier than thou-ness. That afflicts all of us, That's the biggest turnoff sometimes to trying to share the word with somebody. All right, and we're going to get into this in just a minute. We're going to talk about what it really means to be holy. It's not some foreign notion. It's a notion that we all, looked at and thought of 1,000 times. But I want you tonight, when you leave here, hopefully, you'll grasp it in a different way. Tonight, it will mean something a little bit different to you. And I'm talking about being holy in the context of pure religion. Jesus talked about all through Matthew, the 23rd chapter. He spoke to his disciples, and he was talking about the scribes and the Pharisees. They had a type of holiness holiness, but theirs was holier than thou-ness. And let me see, on down in that chapter, in verse 23, he says they were like whitewashed tombs. They look good on the inside, but on the outside, but on the inside, they're full of dead man's bones and all kind of defiled things. And we don't want to be like that, okay? And it's easy for us to be like, it's easy to for us to venture off into Phariseeism, doing all the things that we should do on the outside, but on the inside, we can be defiled. And I say it's easy because of the society that we live in. And that's fake holiness. Matthew 5 says, but they do all the works to be seen of men. We don't do that. We don't want to be that type of Christian. We don't want to practice that type of religion. I did want to throw in Romans before we get moving. I'm headed to 2 Peter. That's what we're going to, I almost had that read, but I wanted to establish what we're talking about tonight. Again, pure religion. We can all attain a stage of pure religion. We all have to attain a stage of pure religion. It's two things. It's living a holy life, and it's doing service.
Come on.
Okay? That's all there is.
Yeah.
That's all there is. And I wanted to stop by Romans, the first chapter. A lot of times when we visit Romans, the first chapter, we just look at the homosexuality part. But what's the problem in that whole chapter is reprobate mind thing. Okay, and we have to watch that ourselves. I mean, a lot of the things that we see on television. I mean, I was just talking to David Senior, who's over at Doherty, making a name for himself today. Last week, and he was saying how he's had a flexible schedule now, that he's an attorney, and he was at home during the day and he was watching some soap opera. And the things that he saw two women doing in the middle of the day on television just blew his mind. He couldn't believe that that's where America has gone there. And it's no big deal. And the reason it is not is because the whole nation has been given over to a reprobate mind. Things that ought to bother us, things that ought to disturb us, don't disturb us. That's all a reprobate mind means. Amen. And so, if we're going to be holy, we have to learn to turn away from this. That may mean that you may not be able to watch your favorite television show. Some of that stuff, scandal, and I won't call it names. You know what I'm talking about. And even some of the things that now that my girls are a little older. There's some things I can't listen to in the car. Well, you know what? Well, I probably don't need to listen to it anyway. Maybe I have to get rid of my Isley brother. Maybe I don't need to listen to him between the sheets. I'll spend the night. He wasn't singing to his wife. Wasn't she already spending the night? I want you to look at the latter part of verse 32 in Romans, the first chapter. It says, knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. Now, we may not have a reprobate body. Most of us too old, broke down. Our minds, Satan he'll take what he can get to provide us. And anyway, we're talking about holiness as it relates to pure religion. Well, I want to get to what we came to get to, what Peter had to say about holiness in the first chapter, in 1 Peter 15 and 16. It simply says, but as he which has called you is holy, so be ye holy in all manner of conversation, because as it is written, be ye holy, for I am holy. Now God is holy. We're his children. He requires us to be holy. It's a requirement. There's no option. It's not some highbrow notion that this is something to attain to when we get to try to get there, but we'll never get there. That's not what holiness is. It's something required of each of us. We got to be holy just like He's holy. And I wanted, Peter did say conversation to ones, which just means your lifestyle. And everything that we do, we need to be holy. Not just in here amongst each other. When you're at your job, you need to be holy. When you're interacting with relatives, not a member of the church, you need to be holy. When you're out in the neighborhood, you need to be holy. We're having a great study on being an influence in the community. We're in that part of our study on Wednesday. We had a great Wednesday night event. We had some law enforcement officers come out, and it was just good to see the humanity of them. They're just regular people trying to do a job. They want to get home safely to their families. And sometimes, when you get to watching CNN and MSNBC, you think every police out there in the world is out to get you and do you in. Well, that's not the case. There are some bad ones, even they admit it. Even they want those bad policemen brought to justice. Anyway, we need to be a good influence in the community. I was struck by the CHP officer, and I got to remember the chin is. We got an old dude at the back that always tells me he can't hear me back there, so I got to remember the chin. He said that Brother Ron asked, what can we do for you? He said the most important thing to do for us is to pray for us. And I was struck by that, and we do need to pray. If you read Romans 13, those are God's ministers, and we do need to pray for them. All right. What I really want to get to tonight is 2 Peter. When I told you, I'm going to tell you there's two aspects of true religion, pure religion, true devotion if you have your NIV Bible, and holiness and service. I want to get to 2 Peter 1 right here, where Peter talks about how we can take on the divine nature. And I keep, when I teach every day, I'm at the back of the room and I'm projecting to the front, so I don't know where to look tonight, but anyway, y'all bear with me. As far as I'm concerned, in this context in 2 Peter, he talks about the divine nature. And, it's not just about acting right on the outside, it's about being right from the inside out. And he doesn't leave us hanging, he tells us how to do that. And let me see if I can find it in my notes. I told Sister Fletcher I was just going to step away from my notes and go off the cover. That can get you in trouble. We'll be here at 10 o'clock if I do that. But he says, whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these you might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. Now, when I was younger, I used to think that meant, when we leave here, when we leave this earth, that we can be partakers of the divine nature. But if we do these things that Peter talks about right after this, we can have as was said, we can have the everlasting now. We can have the divine nature now if we'll do these things. And these are things that you've heard all your life. He says, this is how you do it. Beside this, giving all diligence. And I want to say that to be purely religious is simple. Okay? It's two things. It's holiness and it's service. That's simple. Okay? Now, I'll say this. I need to lose about 25, 30 pounds. And I know exactly what to do. It's simple. Yeah. I have known what to do for about 15, 20 years now. And so all I'm trying to say is, although it's simple, it's not easy. Right? Being truly religious is a challenge. And so the reason I hadn't lost any weight in all that time is because I have not given all diligence to it. I watch people that keep themselves in shape and keep their weight down, and they are diligent about it. They don't mess around. They're not like I am. Sometimes I do all right, but no, I won't get it. And same with being truly religious. Okay, this is not a halfway, sometimes here and there. That won't get it. Okay? Giving all diligence. Add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge. Peter gives us a lifelong, that's what those are. Just a guide way to holiness. And we could look at Galatians 5 and 22 and start there where Paul talks about the fruit of the Spirit. That'll do it too. All right, I'm just focusing in on, we can read Matthew 5 through 7. That'll do it. Jesus tells us the same thing. Peter I like the way he sums it up right here. Give all diligence, strive hard. If I'm talking about if you want to be purely religious, okay? This is not something for the preachers and the elders. This is for all of us. Okay? Strive hard. Faith is just belief and trust. We had a study in Hebrews a couple of years ago, and what we summarized and what we found out is that faith is just as much trust as it is belief. People might believe in God or the notion of God, and I'm talking about Christians. Many of them are not here tonight, but they don't trust Him. They don't believe that He is going to do what He says He's going to do here on this earth and beyond. And then He says virtue. Okay, moral excellence. Now, I didn't want to give you the impression when we said holier than thou is that you don't need to strive for moral excellence. You do. Grace will only cover you when you're striving, when you're giving all diligence. We're all going to fall. We're all going to make mistakes. There's no doubt about that. But moral excellence is what virtue is. We're talking about how to attain holiness, how to be purely religious. Strive hard, trust in the Lord, and live right. Live right. Knowledge, discernment, and understanding and knowing God. We're in our married couples group. We have this book called the 5 Languages of Love, and the notion is that you can't really have a proper relationship with somebody if you don't know them. Right. If you don't understand, we have too many people trying to have a relationship with God and don't really understand what He's all about. Don't really get what the plan is and how they fit in. And so, knowledge, patience, perseverance, not just slugging through it, but having the right type of attitude about whatever it is that life throws at you. And that no matter what, God is going to take care of you. Patience. And then godliness is simply devotion in action that proceeds from love and a reverence for the divine character and commands of God. That's godliness. Not just love, but love that moves me to do something.
All right.
And then brotherly kindness. We're talking about attaining holiness. These are the things that you can do to get that divine nature, sharing that divine nature. These things that we can do right here on earth, sharing the divine nature. We put them in practice if we do these things diligently. Okay, genuine affection, charity, love in action, goodwill, love and benevolence. As I told you, we have purely religious people in here tonight because they do all these things. I can look at certain things there that I need work on. Some areas I'm pretty good, but a lot of areas I need work on. I bet you can do the same. Charity, again, love and action, not just a good warm feeling. James says it's ridiculous that somebody tells you that they need something, you tell them, oh, okay, I'm going to pray for you. And leave them wanting, right? True love, true brotherly kindness, charity, which is love in action. Now I got to try, even if I have to go tell somebody else to help them, I got to try to do something. All right, let's see if we can't go ahead and finish this. Pure religion is also service. To visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction. I don't know a whole lot of widows and orphans, but you know what? I think it means more than that. It just means people that need us, no matter who they are, no matter what their situation is. Every now and then, Brother Hooper and Brother Fletcher they want you to call them and check on them. They're not orphans or widows, right? But it can't always be about Brother Wallace. Brother Wallace can't do benevolence work for me no more. He can take communion for me. We appreciate Brother Wallace and all that he does to check on people, but we have a job to do.
That's right.
The service is simple action of helping and doing work for someone. It always contains two key ingredients, action and obedience. And we found out this morning there's another one you can add on there, humility. Okay, we're not doing it to get credit. Now you're into Phariseeism. And I'm not saying that person won't appreciate it, but in terms of holiness, in terms of pure religion, action, obedience, and humility.
All right.
Matthew 25:41 says, I found this telling that when Jesus was setting up the scenario of the last day, judgment day, that in verse 41 he says, then shall he say unto them on the left, depart from me, you cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. And then he said, for I was hungry and you gave me no meat. I was thirsty and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger and you took me not in. And naked and you clothed me not. Sick and in prison and you visited me not. As I looked at that, I didn't see anything up there about fornication or adultery or stealing or anything. It's talking about all these things that relate to service that these people didn't do. Of course, we can go to Revelation and find out about the others, but I'm just simply saying that a lot of us are going to be saved, not saved, because we don't serve. I look at that and I think about that. These are all simple things that we can do in terms of. Now, as I progress through this, now we're talking about service, and I want to throw out an example of, because maybe you don't know somebody that's thirsty or hungry or whatever that you come in contact with on a regular basis. And I'm not here to talk. In 1 Timothy, Paul writes to Timothy to tell him basically who the church is obligated to help scripturally. And I'm not here to get into that. When you do look at that, though, I will say this. I'm thankful that this church is blessed. So not only that we have the means to help people, but we got leadership that's wise enough and compassionate enough to know that that's important. I even heard a leader say one time that I don't even know if we really need savings, especially the people in need, And so I'm not trying to say what Paul said. I will say this again. I think here we go above and beyond what's required by Scripture. I know we do, but and we should because we're able. But I want to point out though what Paul said. If a person is going to receive help from the church, this is what they should have done. Should have had a reputation for doing good, raising children, providing hospitality to strangers, washing the feet of saints, helping those in distress, and dedicating herself to every kind of good thing. And we studied in our study in Acts, the 9th chapter, and how those brothers sent for Peter. They were desperate at Joppa because Tabitha had died. And in verse 36, it says that her life overflowed with good works and compassionate acts on behalf of those in need. And in verse 39, it says, all the women stood around Peter crying and showing him the robes and other clothing that Dorcas had made. That Dorcas was a servant. And she served those people around. She was truly religious, and they sent for Peter to come and raise her from the dead. But anyway, let me see if I can push on. How do I serve? I know, we had a pushback, and we were trying to get people on these committees and things. And you know what? that's fine. We need committees. We need people to help out in all sorts of works, program of works that we have. But you know what? Whether you're on the committee or not, you are still required to serve.
Yeah.
And so what do I do to serve? How about just do what you do?
Yeah.
I was thinking about, we got people that serve, and many more than I listed up here, but when my mom was in the hospital about a month ago, my sister was going through therapy and so forth. And when my mom was in the hospital, Sister Cassandra Wade was wheeled up in a wheelchair so that she could rub her legs down with lotion. And I'm thinking, now this is the person that came and walked up here, but yet she's coming up here to do something for somebody else. And how she would go over to Brother Fletcher, that's a long hallway over there where he was. You'd go over there and take him chicken and pie and all sorts of that. If you want to serve, just do what you do. You don't have to do something great. My sister, when she cooks, well, she cooks a little extra for people that don't cook now. Maybe they're up in age or what. It's not some great thing that's got to be spelled out and official and in a church document. Just do whatever it is that you're in. Sister Grange, again, she just does little things.
Amen.
And Uber service around here. When my mom was in the hospital, she brought her a CD player so she could listen to the sermons. And my mom, she doesn't do YouTube too much, so she bought her a player so she could do that. Sister Grange would read the scriptures to us. Sister Grange would sing songs to her. And I don't know how to say this delicately, but Sister Grange will never be confused with Whitney Houston. That's all right, but she sang something she did what she could do. And my mom appreciated that. It's the thought that counts. And other people. Brother Stevenson, I was telling my mom about how, when I first moved out to California 30 years ago, in between services, we'd go and play basketball. I'm talking about me and Brother Stevenson and other people all until it's time to come back to church. Now me and him together, if he went halfway and I went the other half, we couldn't get one trip up and down. He still goes to funerals, brotherhood events. He tries to be supportive of other congregations. Just do what you do. It's not some great thing that's out there. Of course, Brother Wallace kind of does a little bit of everything. And so, anyway, it doesn't have to be some great thing, service as it relates to true religion. All right, let's. Our greatest act of service is sharing the gospel. And there's no excuses. We can make excuses. We do live in this particular area now where the culture is different than maybe the culture that I grew up in. The language that's spoken in the community might be different. Ethnicity might be different. That doesn't, relieve us of our responsibility to try to get the word out. It's not as easy as when Brother Keeble could go and preach the whole congregation and get the whole congregation baptized in a couple in a week. But we are still obligated to serve. That's still our most important job, is to spread the word to the lost and to keep the saved saved. Amen. And to do what you're doing tonight in Hebrews 10:24 and 25, and that's provoke each other to love and to good works. I don't know what else is left up there, but I'm going to leave it right there tonight. We appreciate your patience, your just being out there and attentive tonight. But as always, you know that we never know who's in the audience, and I see some of our young people that hadn't obeyed the gospel, and you ought to think seriously about doing so, because if you believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and you know that He died for you, you build a church, then you are responsible You are at the age of accountability. And, we're ripping around up and down these highways and things, as those old preachers used to say, there's all kind of graves out there in the graveyard. Some of them are that long, some of them are that long. So we all need to think about our souls and where we are at all times with the Lord. You got to hear the word, believe it. If you're going to come to God, you got to have faith. Hebrews 11:6. You got to believe that He is, and that He's a reward of those that diligently seek Him. Right. And you got to repent. You got to decide you're going to do it God's way, not your own way. Confess the sweet name of Jesus, and then go down and water His grave. But I think everybody here tonight knows that, and walk in the newness of life. And maybe you're here tonight, maybe your religion is not what it ought to be. Maybe it's, average religion or kind of pure religion. And sometimes we just need to come down and James 5 says, confess your faults one to another. And we all have faults. We all have blind spots, things that we need to work on. So whatever your pleasure is, if that's you, we're going to ask you as we stand and sing to come down.